I'm Grandmaster Ben Finegold and you're not. And you didn't get that show because you're too young. But if you were in your 40s or 50s, you'd get it. Yeah, you ever heard of Chevy Chase?
I have.
Oh, he used to be on SNL, which you've heard of?
Yes.
And he did the news. And he said, hi, I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. Every newscast started like that. Yeah, which was true. Yeah, unless you're in Maryland. Okay, so today's lecture is the Endgame lecture because I said so. And with Endgame lectures, I do two different things. One is I show actual games that people played and we talk about it. Or I show positions that are made up so we can learn something from the made up positions. Today, I did two things. I did actual games, and each game has a theme. And theme, which I teach every lesson, someday somebody will listen to me, hopefully not my opponent. In fact, it was lucky that 1,000 player didn't listen because he would have beat me. And that is to activate your king. And we're going to see some king marches, okay? And then Donald Trump will approve because he likes when there's a march. He needs some tanks or something. Okay, now the first game I've shown many times. The other ones I've never shown. This game, if you've watched all my lectures, and you have, you know this game. It's funny because they've never seen my lectures. And they did, and they still forgot. This game was played in the U.S. Women's Championship in 2009 in St. Louis. And in fact, it was the first time I was in St. Louis at the chess club there. Because, as you know, the chess club there is sort of famous and so forth. And I've done a lot of lectures there. I worked there for 7 years. And the first time I was ever there, I was doing commentary on this tournament. And what's funny is the player with black, who was heretofore unknown, she's actually the current reigning U.S. Women's Champion. And player with white quit chess, and now she's into building spaceships and stuff. So the truth hurts. Yeah. Okay, so that was true also. That's what she does. Okay, so Zenyuk is playing Foisor, born and bred in America. No, I'm kidding. And white played the move knight takes b7. And as you'll notice by looking at the position, which I'm sure Archer remembers from previous lectures, as does Karen, white has an extra pawn because 5 is more than 4. Yeah. White has 2 pawn islands, which is pretty good. Do you know what a pawn island is?
I do.
Okay. And black has 4 pawn islands, which is not good. Okay. And if it was white's turn to move, white would play rook c8 check, winning the rook. So white has everything. White's got more material, white has a better pawn structure, and white has a big threat. Okay. Now, unfortunately, when we were doing game analysis, since this is move 30, and the time control is at move 40, that means everybody's in time trouble. And this wasn't the top board in the tournament. These were 2 of the lower rated players. And so I cursory said, well, white's up a pawn. All white has to do is move her king up the board and she'll win, because white's winning. Okay, then we stopped looking at the game and we looked at games with more famous players who were in more time trouble. And then those games got out of time trouble eventually. And when they got out of time trouble, we went back to this game. It's like, hey, let's see an update. Let's see what happened. And I remember when we came back, it was this position. And I was like, what happened? I needed adults. I needed a diaper. Okay? I needed that emote 9 years ago, but it wasn't there. And I was like, wait a minute. Wasn't this king here in the position we just looked at? And this king went here? Like, what happened? Okay, so I was shocked. So at first I was confused and I thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, well, in the position I showed you next, black's winning, and here I thought white was winning, so maybe I'm wrong. But then I turned on the engine and it said white's winning, because white's winning. And what happened was, black moved your king up the board, like you're supposed to do in an endgame, and white actually not only didn't move her king up the board, she encouraged black to move her king up the board. So that was, now you know why she quit chess and built spaceships. Okay, and how black later became the U.S. Women's Champion. Not only is she the U.S. Women's Champion, her husband, her fiance is a grandmaster. Even better than me. Is that possible? Yeah. Okay, so this is how the game went. Black played rook g6. Obviously, white's threatening to win the rook, so let's stop that. And white played knight c5, which was fine. Knight e3 is fine. g3 is fine. Okay, h5. Now, if I was white, I wouldn't like my king. So I would walk my king up the board, and then I would be up a pawn. And I would play knight d3, and black can't do anything. Like white's got everything. Okay, instead, white got greedy. Okay, and in this position, white played rook check, a move I would never, ever, ever, ever consider, forcing black's king up the board. Okay, and then she did it again. Wow. Okay, that's crazy. And this is interesting. If black moves the king to a normal square, I can check and trade rooks. And probably white wanted to trade rooks because white's up a pawn, and white figured if I trade pieces, I'll win. And this move gives away the f pawn, so probably white was really happy about that. Although this stops, the rook move. So and black just keeps moving her king up, once again forcing the king up to be greedy and win a pawn. Okay, and that's what happened. And black's king really moved up. Wow. Yeah, unbelievable. And so, for those of you who aren't familiar with tournament chess, even for those of you who are, a lot of chess tournaments, and some don't, they have what are called two time controls, where you make the first 40 moves and they give you some time. Then when you get to move 40, they give you more time. And some tournaments is just time for the whole game, like every tournament here in our chess center. Okay. Now, this tournament was 40 moves in 90 minutes, and then when you get to move 40, you get another 30 or 60 minutes. So usually, between moves 30 and 40, the players have very little time. Then when they get to move 40, they get more time. And they're like, yeah, I have more time. So this is move 40. So white can look at the ruins of her position, which is white took all the pawns, but this king is trapped on h1. And black's king is great. So black's actually winning now. And black kept moving her king up. And in this position, white played rook here, which allows a two-move checkmate, which black didn't play. And what's funny is, even though black has checkmate in 2 moves and didn't play it, she still won. Good position. Okay, and there's 2 things you do to checkmate somebody. One is you put them in check. The other is the king can't get out of check. Well, there's 2 checks here. And this check isn't good because the knight takes it. So that's terrible. The other check, we could play king h2. If we couldn't play king h2, that would be mate. Therefore, Archer suggests knight g4, which prevents king h2, because I said so. And now we threaten checkmate. Yeah, good luck stopping that. Actually, you can stop that. You have 3 ways to stop it. They're all knight moves. And all 3 knight moves allow rook h3 mate. You can't play rook h3 mate here because there's a knight defending it. But if the knight moves, then the knight's not defending it. So after knight g4, it's mate in 1 next move. Okay, she didn't see that. She played rook g4, threatening eventual checkmate and the knight. Also a good move. Then she played d3, attacking the rook. And this position, white actually gave up, because you can't stop this pawn. That pawn's too strong. If you trade rooks, there's nobody's stopping this pawn. Nobody. Rawr. Yeah. So after d3, if we turn the engine on, it gives some crazy number, like black's up 1,000,000. That's like being up 6 queens. Okay, so white resigned. Okay, so that was a funny game because white was a pawn up and basically had no problems. And the game ended with white's king still not moving and black's king moving up the board. Something I teach a lot, and I've actually shown this particular game a lot because it shows one side moving their king up the board and the other side not moving their king. And then the side that's down 2 pawns wins easily. In fact, that side even missed wins and still won easily. Okay, now the next one is a famous game because white was the world chess champion. Okay, although white was not the world chess champion during this game, Capablanca was. If you were here last week and you weren't, I gave a lecture on Capablanca. Okay, and Capablanca in 1927, as you all know, lost to Alekhine. Right, you all knew that. Okay, now, what's funny about the player with black, Frederick Yates, he's from England, so when tournaments were in England, they were like, who's the best player in England? Okay, you play. Okay, and then he would get crushed by good players, but he's the best player they got. So, in the 1970s, Bobby Fischer was on the Dick Cavett show, your favorite host. Exactly. And Dick Cavett said, Mr. Fisher, how come a relatively unknown player like Yates beat Alekhine? Now, this didn't happen this game, but it did happen. And Fisher's response was, no, Yates never beat Alekhine. That was his response. Good response. And I think Yates beat Alekhine twice, but he couldn't ask follow-up questions because Fisher's like, no, that didn't happen. So the truth hurts. Yeah? He's like, I'm Bobby Fischer. That didn't happen. Okay, so obviously in chess, anybody can beat anybody. Now, if you remember the theme of this lecture, and you don't, especially you at home, okay, you gotta say no to drugs. Okay, when this lecture is about somebody moving their king up the board, confusing the audience. They're like, wait, which king's moving up the board? What are you talking about? Those kings are on the second rank. Okay, well, one guy's the world champion and one's not. So let's find out. Okay, White played King G3, and then he played King F4, and then he's like, oh no, my pawn's attacked. Well, he probably didn't care about that. Okay, and then you can see Black's king isn't doing very much. Now he played knight here with two reasons. One is to play knight f6 check, which looks good. The other is that he knew I was going to give a lecture 100 years later, and he'd have to get a square for his king. So, okay. And he plays knight there. You can't take the knight, obviously, because of rook h7 mate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he moved his rook, takes, giving his knight away. What a potzer. He took it. And then White moved his king up. The truth hurts. And White's up a king. White has an extra king. So White sacrificed his knight, but as compensation, he got a king. So my king is pretty good. Your king is not as good. Now here, I can check you on the 7th rank, and your king will run to f8, and there's no more checks. For example, here's an example. That was the example. Hey, good job. I did good. Okay, so Alekhine played king e5 attacking the rook. We can't move either rook to f8 because now that sequence I showed you is now checkmate. Remember how the black king went to f8? Well, if the rook's on f8, the king can't go to f8. So if you play this rook to f8, for example, then it's checkmate. And the other rook is the same. If you don't play rook f8, king takes rook is annoying. So there's nothing you can do. So what did Black do? He gave up. Yeah, I gave up. So Alekhine sacrificed his knight, walked his king up the board, and Black said, ooh, that's a good square for my king. Terrible. And then Fisher's like, that guy never beat anybody. Man, Fisher's tough. Okay, now, there's a guy some of you have heard of, Magnus Carlsen. And actually, I found on the web, after doing hours and hours of research, and there wasn't 5 minutes of research and 3 hours of napping. There definitely wasn't that. Okay? That Carlsen had a lot of king marches. As you all know, Carlsen's well known for being a great endgame player. And this game was played in 2007 when he was like 3 years old. Okay? Now he was at least 4. Okay? I'll tell you how young he was. He wasn't even 2,700. Carlsen's been 2,800 for like 7 years. So, okay. And he's playing Zbynek Hracek. Okay, if you can't pronounce your opponent's name, you know he's good. Okay, I told that to Michael Adams before you were all born. Well, definitely before you two were born. You might have been born, maybe. I told him a long time ago. Yeah. Okay, and I said, if you can't pronounce your opponent's name, watch it. Okay, now obviously he's from the Czech Republic, because he's got Czech in his name. Okay, now here, White is ahead a pawn, but I was talking about king marches. It seems more likely this king is going to march than this king that can't legally march, right? Can't do it. However, who's going to win, Magnus Carlsen or the guy you never heard of, right? Okay, and this was in 2007. Wow, how old was Carlsen in 2007? It's probably 16 or 17? 17, I'm guessing. Yeah, 17 I got. Okay, and Black's like, you can't beat me, I'm going to do nothing. Now, if White does a king march, because that's the point of the lecture, how does he do it? How does White get his king up the board?
Threatens the rook.
But then my rook goes sideways. Like if you go here, I'll play rook takes g2.
King g1, king h2.
Keep going.
King d3, king f4.
Yeah, you gotta go around the mountain, and then you gotta. Okay, so First he plays b4. He gets his pawn going. Okay. He hides his king. Okay. Now, the reason he gets his pawn going first is obvious. If his pawn gets really close to promoting and his king runs over here, it's hard for black to play rook takes pawn because this pawn's promoting. This pawn's over here. It's easy to play rook takes g2. Yeah. Okay, so Carlsen's like, well, first, we're going to stop rook takes g2. Okay, then we're going to move our king over. And he moves his king over. And if black hadn't played this check, white's just going to move his king here. And you can't move your rook sideways to keep my king up because this pawn will queen. You got to keep your rook here. And so the king just goes here and then goes up. Okay, and then we have to keep going. So it's going to take a while. Okay, and now where do we go? There we go. Yay, and he made a queen because his king got to the back rank. What is this, St. Louis? Okay. And then his king is active. Hooray for his king. Okay, so now he did everything right. He got his king as far as it could go. These can't move. Well, luckily there's other things on the board, right? Got some other stuff. So let's do that. F4. Rawr. Okay, he's got more stuff. Okay, now this was amazing what he did here. Never in all my years. I'm older than all of you, even the person who's older than me, and I never saw this before. So here, every move, the last 20 moves, white wants to move his rook and then promote his pawn. And if he does that, black takes the pawn. So, can't do it. But now, finally, Archer.
Rook g8.
He played rook g8 with a dual threat. Obviously threatening the queen, because I just said that. And threatening checkmate, shocking the audience.
Checkmate.
Right. I never saw that checkmate. That's pretty cool. Man, Magnus is lucky every game. Okay, well, you can't let me checkmate you, and you can't let me queen. So you got to do something about that. Okay, so he checked. Moved the king. And then he took the pawn, and he's got his own pawn. See this pawn? That's a pawn. Yeah. Okay, f3. Never play f3. Now that's a pawn. King c6 activates your king. This is actually very funny. Let's see if you guys remember what Archer said 5 minutes ago. Also 1 minute ago. If I queen, and you can't stop me from queening, I guarantee it. What does white do other than Archer? Remember what Archer said a few minutes ago? That would help.
I think he said rook g8.
Right, but the rook's on g8. Yeah. Which white piece isn't where it was when he said that?
The king is.
Yeah, where was the king?
d6.
d6. Threatening e5 mate. Oh. Good luck stopping it. I wish you luck. You can't stop it.
At least broke to a knight like Nakamura.
Right, he broke to a knight. Okay, so that's funny. Instead of stopping this pawn, he's like, I'm going to mate you. And the guy's like, wait a minute, you can't play king d6 and mate me. So he played king e5. Everybody moves their king up. Everybody's great. Okay. Then rook check, defending his pawn. King d5 defending his pawn again. And now you played f6. Never play 6. If you play f2, what obvious move does white play? This pawn's going to go here, so you better do something about that. Man, chess is tough. If I go here, I might win. Yeah, you, Karen.
Rook f8.
Rook f8, yeah. Now the truth hurts. Yeah. Okay, so black played f6. His reasoning was, if it's his move again, he'll go here, and if rook f8, he'll play king g5. See, that pawn's looking good now, that f pawn. Yeah, okay. So rook f8 before the pawn goes to f2. And then he resigned. The only move that makes sense is this. Otherwise, I take all your pawns. Yeah. And then, I'm assuming more than one move wins. I would go here, because that's me. Because I don't want that pawn to queen. And then, yeah. And I'm assuming after rook f8, the computer says some crazy number. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Okay, it announces mate. Lucky computer. Okay. So Magnus walked his king all the way up the board, then to the right, then to the left, then to the right, and he won because he had a king. If you don't have a king, then you don't win. It's good to have a king. That's what Mel Brooks would say. It's good to have a king. All right. Complicated joke. Okay, now this game against Levon Aronian, who just lost a brilliant game, pretty similar to the last game.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, G6, King G2, here comes the A-pawn, here comes the white king, here comes the A-pawn, very similar. Yeah, here comes the A-pawn. There. Okay, so he did it again, Britney Spears style. Now it's time for the king. It's the same thing. Okay, same kind of idea. Now we have to be careful with white because if we do all this stuff, this pawn, that's a pawn. That's serious. Careful. Also in the last game, white was up a pawn, not anymore. Equal pawns. Okay, so he played rook there, stopping the king. Then he played f4, so his king has more squares. Here comes the king. And Aronian's like, perfect. That's the perfect distance away for me to queen my pawn. Okay? And then Magnus is like, well, I'll go stop that pawn. So it's funny the way he goes that way, then he goes that way, and we're not even close to done. Not even close. And I don't like what Aronian did, because even though Aronian has counterplay with his h-pawn, he doesn't have a king. White's king can stop the h-pawn, it can help the a-pawn, it can go take the d-pawn, I don't know. Black's king? But Black's has no king. Now if Black's king was here, then maybe Black's winning. Here, if Black had a king, now we're talking. So I don't like what Aronian did with his king. No king. Okay? What would Blind Melon say about that? Would say no rain, but it's no king. Okay, so here, yeah. Okay, so Aronian probably thought this is a draw. My rook stopping his pawn, his king stopping my pawn. Well, White's king can move and Black's can't. And White plays f5, and he's really going to trap that king. Man, the truth hurts. Wow, then Black has no king at all. And actually, we're going to do something you've never heard of, unless they're you two. Maybe you heard of it. Maybe. It's called Zugzwang. Yeah, no.
I think I've heard the word.
Yeah, it's a German word which means compulsion to move, but you don't want to move. So this is funny. Once I go here and you play king h7 because you have to, now Black can't move, but if White plays king g1, king h1 and just keeps doing it, Black has to move eventually. Black can't move his king, Black can't move his pawns, Black can't move his rook, but it's his turn. So the reason you can't move your rook is the Black rook is stopping king h2, and the Black rook is stopping White's rook from moving because it's behind the pawn. Well, it has to stay there. The Black rook has nowhere to go. That's perfect where it is now. But if it moves this way, the White king moves up. If it moves this way, White moves his rook and queens. So, yeah. And that's what happened. And now he has to move. Now, let's play another way. Let's play this way. He didn't do that. Okay, problem with that way is I go check. And you can't play king g6 because I check you and then I promote. So you have to play king h7. And now the winning move for White is archer.
G6.
G6 check. Okay, and as was seen in the movie Tombstone, White's just forced to reckoning, right? Okay, if king takes, we already discussed this, check and queen. And if pawn takes, that's even worse. Man, the truth hurts.
Nakamura will lose because he.
And then promote to a knight in draw, right? Okay, so he didn't do that. He played king h7, and now he has to move. Now, if I was Black, I would be thinking stalemate because I can't move my king. So if I give this away and give this away and start checking, you can't take my rook. Let me give you a hypothetical example. Very hypothetical. I'm the hypotheticalist.
Let's keep on.
Yeah, so now the king has to run, and then the White keeps checking, Black keeps checking. Now, what could happen, let's say the White king goes to e8. If the Black rook checks, you can take the rook, because the king can move back. If the rook checks here, we can take with this pawn, which liberates Black. So probably white's winning here too, maybe. Okay. But I would be trying to stalemate. Karen.
So back, if the G pawn takes
Yeah.
F pawn,
Uh-huh.
we can go back to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what happens if the F6?
Never play F6. Then I take it, and you can't move anywhere. You have to stay on G7. But you're in check, so you can't. The reason is I'm going to play rook check. And in fact, there's a very tricky line here.
You can't take with the king.
You can, then I play rook check, and I queen.
Oh.
I'm always trying, and there's a very tricky line here, which Archer knows the answer to. After king F7, now what's the winning move for white? Very tricky. Archer,
Rook H8.
you play rook H8 because you want a queen, right? And then if he takes it, you have a skewer. A well-known trick. Unless you don't know it, then it's not well-known. Yeah. Okay, now Aronian avoided all that, but here Aronian was in Zugzwang, he can't move. So he played H2, and now white can't move. But he moved anyway. Okay, and obviously took the pawn, and he took the pawn, and finally I'm up a king. I have an extra king. My king can move, your king cannot. And not only can your king not move, I don't recommend you allowing that. And so that means your rook has to stay here. Well, if your rook stays there, then I'm just going to win. Yeah. So your rook has to protect both pawns. Good luck. Again, I'd be trying for stalemate here. Although, I don't think white has to take this pawn. I think after d5, I could just play e5 and not stalemate you. Okay. Although I think the stalemate doesn't work. Although it might. Okay, so he moves his king up because he's moving his king up. And now Magnus is like, I'm going to go here. That's a good plan. Okay. Yeah. And this is really funny. The main reason for this rook e8 idea was to have a safe place for the white king. Very safe. And the reason it's extra safe is because now there's no stalemate. The king can go to h7, h8 because we blocked our rook. We unstalemated him. Yeah. And then black resigned. So my question is, I have a question. Okay, what if I play d5 and you take? Can I draw this with stalemate? I think the answer is yes. I think this is a draw. Which means you shouldn't take. Yeah, computer says draw. Computer sees stalemate. So I think after d5 you play e5. Yeah. Then there's no stalemate because this pawn can make 1,000 moves. Yeah. Yeah, then it says white's winning. Although it's close. First line's close. Yeah. Okay. You got to look for stalemate. Yeah.
Wait, can you show us the stalemate?
Yeah. Well, the stalemate after, if you take on d5, which is a bad move,
Yeah.
is you just check forever with the rook. And you always check with the rook. You don't even care where the king can take it. You're just always checking with the rook. Now here you can't check with the rook because after takes, you can take. So that means I've already made a mistake. So what I should have done was check this way. I want to be able to check you from this side. Yeah, I can't play rook e6 check, you can take it. Yeah, you can't take my rook here. But it's going to be a stalemate.
Wait, go back to that. Can you play like rook e5 when it wasn't?
Rook e5 when?
No, I mean rook a5.
Here?
No, like go king g3. And do this one.
Oh, well, I played rook a5 and it wasn't check. More crazier than I thought. Wow. Okay, so I have to play rook f3 check and then rook f5 check. Yeah, that's what I have to do. Yeah. And now you're not even winning because I can take this. So now you have to take my rook. Now you're going to risk losing if you start running over here. Watch it. Okay. Yeah, rook a5 I thought was check. That was crazy like Fox News. Yeah. That's possible. Yeah. You know who's crazier than Fox News? Is Trump himself. He showed Fox News. They were like, what? He's making us look bad. Yeah. Okay. And then the last Carlsen game, but not the least, because this is funny. This is move 32, and the game ended on move 85. So it's move 32. These guys are 2,800. They're two of the 5 best players in the world. possibly 1 and 2. And it's like, oh, we got an end game. This game's going to end soon. And the game's only a third over. Okay, and obviously you take. Okay, so black has every advantage possible. He's got an extra pawn, better pawn structure. His king's better, but white's threatening the queen. So black played 97. Okay, and to me this looks like a really easy win. You go take the pawn, and you're up 2 pawns. What's the problem? Problem is he's playing Kramnik. Rawr. Okay, Kramnik has been known to be a great endgame player since before Magnus was born, which is true. Kramnik's old school. Kramnik's 43, and he's winning the candidate tournament at the moment. So if he wins it, he'll play Carlsen in November for the World Championship. So could be a World Championship preview here I'm showing you. Okay, so Kramnik played King F2 because Kramnik moves his king up. Okay, attacks the knight moves away, attacks the pawn. So while black is dealing with this pawn, Kramnik's going to harass Carlsen over here. Okay, makes sense. And he's like, no, leave me alone. Okay, so now he can move his king over, and there's no bishop here and takes the pawn. Okay. Both sides move their king up, and he harasses him anyway. Man, tough player. Okay, and he gets one of the pawns back. And Carlsen makes about 8,000 king moves this game. Pretty impressive. Okay, so Carlsen wants to play knight f8 or knight e5 and stop the white king from coming in. Now, I think if the king goes to f5, we have to play knight f8 because the king can come in 2 squares. So what's good for black is also good for white. If black wants to move his king up, which will surprise you, even though that's the lecture, well, white wants to do that too. If white gets his king to g6, maybe white's better. Maybe white's going to win. Okay, so we got to stop that. Okay, he played knight e5. He didn't care about this like I did, probably because this is covered. So that would take a long time. Knight f8 seems safer, but maybe the knight's no good on f8. Okay, h3. Yeah, if you go here and start walking your king up, you're going to lose all your pawns. Man, that's no good. Now this pawn's annoying. Right? Okay, so he played h3. Now we have a rule in chess. I don't know what the rule is here. I know the rule. I don't know if it applies here. Rule is when somebody's trying to win an endgame, obviously black's up a pawn, it's advantageous for the defending side to have all the pawns on one side. I'm not sure if they're all on one side here because the d pawn's on the d. So they're pretty close together. That makes it easy to defend. When you're trying to win, you want pawns on both sides, and your opponent doesn't know what you're going to do. If they're all over here, then you can draw. Also, you want as few pawns as possible, because a knight and a pawn doesn't beat a bishop. A knight doesn't beat nothing. Imagine if we trade pawns and my bishop sacrifices for your last pawn. You have a king and a knight, and I have a king. That's a draw. So if it's like 8 pawns against 7, you would expect to win. If it's 2 pawns against 1, you would expect it to be a draw. This is 4 against 3, so I don't know. Could be a win, could be a draw. That's why the game is only half over. And a lot of times, when there's very few pieces on the board, and you're some random person, you're like, oh, the grandmasters, they already know what's going to happen. Well, I know that black's going to win or it's going to be a draw, but I don't know which one. The engine probably doesn't know either. If I turn the engine on, it gives some tricky number like 0.8. So you're like, wait, is that a win or a draw? Because the engine doesn't know, so it does that. I didn't do it, but I know engines, they're tricky. If the engine says +2 and it's a draw, then the engine's wrong. If the engine says 0.1 and it's a win, the engine's wrong. So the engine doesn't know, it gives some number where it could be a win or a draw and it's still safe. See, the engine's smart, see? See, I knew it. Ooh, I knew the engine was going to do that to me. So now if it's a win or a draw, the engine is safe. The engine thinks it's more likely a draw than a win. Okay, now it's saying it's a draw. Now the engine's like pretty confident that if white plays perfectly, it's a draw. And the engine's looking 20, 30, 40 moves ahead. Okay, players can't do that, and players get tired. The game goes 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, then they might make a mistake. Archer knows what I'm talking about. So you don't know this, but his games end in 5 minutes, and her games end in 5 hours. So Karen actually knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. In fact, he played a 1650 last week and he won in like 8 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah. And they both started with 75 minutes on their clock.
Wow.
Right? And Karen didn't play and her game took longer. Exactly. Right? Yeah. Okay, so king c5, move your king up. And then he moves his king back. Moves it all the way back. Okay, and it's checkmate. No, I'm just kidding. So he stopped the white king from going here, then he kicked the king out. Okay, now he's trapping the bishop. No. Now this would be funny here. He'd go here, trapping his own bishop. Now this isn't checkmate because the king can go to g6. Although this sort of checkmates the king. The king's checkmated, stalemated. Yeah. I think knight h4 is mate. I think like that. Like, how can I cheat? So if my knight could do that somehow, that'd be funny. Yeah. So he was afraid to get his king trapped with king f5. Let's see what the engine says. Engine says, knight here check, knight c4, and then I win. I take this pawn and I go rawr. And then it says some crazy number. Right? Totally winning. Okay. So that means king g3 was the right decision, not king f5. Okay. Now, he kicked out white's king. White's king was all over here, and Carlsen said, get out. Now the king got out. Now that the king got out, now Carlsen could walk his king up the board, which he does. That's good walking your king up the board. Okay, now, grandmasters who are watching the game, like I am now, when it started, I'm like, I don't know. Get a win or draw, I don't know. Don't ask me. And then, as I'm watching the game, black moves his king up the board, and he forced white's king back. Now I know he's going to win. I'm like, oh, black's king is on g1, white's king isn't moving. Okay, now I know black's going to win. When the king was on e7, I'm like, oh. And what had to happen was, there had to be a way to keep the pawns on the board. This pawn stuck forever. This pawn stuck forever. So, if these pawns are always on the board, and these pawns are always on the board, I have good winning chances. If somehow you can trade all these pawns, it's going to be a draw. That's why Carlsen put his knight here. He's like, no, you can't play e4. Okay. And Kramnik's like, I'll just move back and forth and draw. I got everything covered. It's all good. Well, now my king's going to go here and take. So he just came around. Okay. And if his king went to f2 to stop the king from coming in, then I could play knight e4 check, and your king has to do something. It's going to have to go back to f3 because you're going to lose your e-pawn. Okay, so he stopped the king temporarily. Check. Always check, and then check. Always repeat. Now he's attacking this pawn, and they traded 3 against 2, pretty close to a draw, except black has that king. Man, oh man, that king is too good. And by the way, if I put black's king here, it's got to be a draw. Has to be. But, whew. So that was good. Carlsen went here, and then here, and then here, then back, kicked the white king out, and then he walked all the way around. Okay, this is why Carlsen's known for being patient, great endgame technique, not hurrying, and so is Kramnik. But not this game. And he's going to get in Zugzwang where he can't move. So you can't play here because I check. You can't go here because I win your bishop. And king f1, you're losing everything. By the way, a lot of players are confused, which is good when I play them. I like when they're confused when I play them. When they have a bishop and they're like, okay, I can put the pawns on the same color as my bishop, like white did, and then my bishop defends them. Or I can put them on the other color. Put them on the other color, then they control the dark squares, and the white bishop controls the white squares, and the black king can't come in. But if they're on the same color, nothing is controlling the dark squares. So that's how the king came in. Okay, and you can't stop him. And now the bishop can't move anywhere. The pawns are blocking the bishop. So it's almost always correct to put pawns on the opposite color of your bishop. So the pawns control one color, your bishop controls the other color, and your bishop isn't blocked by your own pawns. What would Lisa Simpson say? A blockaded bishop is of little value. Because she said that. Okay, so that didn't happen. And he played king e3. And he kicked the bishop out and attacked the pawn. And Kramnik's like, wait, I'm going to take all these pawns and I'm going to draw. Hooray for me. And the problem is if he takes this, I take this, check. And then I could play h5 and all my pawns are defended. So he just chilled, bishop d1. And if he takes this, I attack your bishop moves and I take this. So he played king e4, stopping that. Then f5, this is a very nice trick. And Kramnik took the knight, but those pawns are too strong. Yeah, and g2. Wow, he actually took the pawn instead of resigning? Wow, no respect. All right, then here he resigned. And the computer will announce mate, I guarantee it. Good guarantee since I didn't know, but I knew. Yeah, okay. And so that was amazing if we go from the beginning, because the endgame took so long. We started with the king here, and probably more than half the moves were king moves for black. Probably he made about 35 king moves from here. He went here and here and here and here and here, and then here and here, and he won because he had a good king. And that's the problem with this pawn structure. It's not really good for keeping the black king out. Yeah, this pawn structure, that's good for keeping the white king out. Man, that's, and that's why Kramnik tried to destroy it, because he wanted to get his king in there, and eventually he couldn't. And I've been teaching for years, and luckily one of my students didn't listen, otherwise he would have beat me, is you got to move your king up in the endgame. And you don't know this, but about a month and a half ago, we had a tournament here, and occasionally there's an odd number. That means somebody doesn't play, okay? So then I'm like, do you want to play Karen? Do you want to play me? And Karen wasn't here. So I said, do you want to play me? And he's like, okay. And his rating was 1,000. So before we started, he said, excuse me, wipe the drool off your face. And I'm like, all right, okay. So we're playing, and I'm winning, and I made like the worst move in chess history. And I'm getting crushed. And not only am I getting crushed, he's playing great. Okay, then we get down to where I have 30 seconds, and he has like 4 minutes, and I'm dead lost. And it's an end game, and all he has to do is move his king up the board, and he wins. The computer says he's like +8.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just dead. And he never moved his king. He left it on h8. So he went from like +8 to +4 to +2 to equal, and then I got him. His king. I got his king. Like my king was good and his wasn't. He was up a lot of material, but I walked my king up the board, and he kept his king on h8 the whole game. And every move, the computer's like king g7, king f6. And he was like, nope. He just did other stuff. Okay. So I won the game. And when the game ended, I'm like, hey, move your king up, and I lose. And he's actually a student in a class of mine. So I've said it in class many times, but luckily. And one thing I say is, you should always do this and do that unless you're playing me. So maybe he took that to heart. That was my only hope. Yeah. So if you move your king up in the end game, and your opponent doesn't, you're up a king. And it's a hard thing to do, because when you start playing chess, and it's the opening and middle game, you better not move your king up, because then the guy has 10 pieces and meets you. And when the king does move up in the opening and middle game, usually they get checkmated. So, but in the end game, when there's no pieces on the board, you got to move your king up, because your king can do everything. Your king moves in every direction. And the knight's sort of clumsy. And the bishop is limited. This bishop cannot go to dark squares, no matter how hard it tries. This king can go everywhere. So that's annoying. And for white, it was very annoying, because the king just came around. And what's funny is, Magnus has a lot of those, considering he's in his 20s. Usually, when you find great endgame players who have lots of good endgames that go 60, 70, 80 moves, they're in their 40s and 50s, and they have a wealth of experience of chess games. But a lot of Magnus's games are him winning in 70 moves from slightly better positions. And in fact, when I turned the engine on at some point, it said, oh, this should be a draw. But it should be a draw, and Magnus wins a lot of those games because it's hard to defend. It's easy to try to win, but to defend perfectly, we need a computer for that. And then when the guy gets tired, obviously, if you've been playing for 6 hours, it's hard to defend perfectly. So at some point there, White went from drawing to losing, but it was probably around move 60. So old, tired, weak. Archer knows what I'm talking about. When you get to the 6th hour, you're like, oh, God, exhausted. Yeah. And before you guys were born, I had games that were adjourned, where you stop and you finish later. And one of my games took 3 days. And it was actually 9.5 hours. And I lost in like 102 moves. And it was a drawn endgame. It should have been a draw, but I couldn't do it. I was too old. I think I was 20. No, I was 19. I was still too old. Yeah. If I was 14, then I would have more energy. Yeah. All right, that's the endgame class, and it featured mainly Magnus Carlsen moving your king up the board, recommended by me, unless you're playing me. Then careful. All right, and as Gene Wilder always says, class is dismissed.